Okay, hi everyone. We see some people joining. So excited. Hi. All right, come on in. So many attendees already. Welcome, everyone. All right, as you are entering the room, we would love to hear from you. Where are you from? Where are you joining us from? Drop your location in the chat so we know what city, where are you tuning in from? For those of you who are just joining, I am Chris Gordon. I'm your host tonight, and I am going to be moderating the time with our wonderful ladies who are going to share so much about lactation and pregnancy style. All right, we have some California, New Hampshire, New Jersey. Wow, we've got everything covered and all different kind of climates too. So that'll be good because for the styling portion, we can talk a little bit about how to style different looks depending on where you're from. You can layer. So this will be really fun. Okay, New Yorker. I'm a New Yorker. Great. All right, so we're going to give it a few more minutes, let a couple more people join, and then we are going to hop in to tonight's programming. We are so excited to have everybody here, and we can't wait. This is something that we are all so passionate about, and these digital events have been such a fun way to build community. And so thank you so much for taking the time out of your evening, whether, you are already a mom of multiple kids and you had to sneak away at bedtime to join, or whether you're pregnant or expecting with your first, or, even considering conceiving, we're just excited to welcome you here. Okay, I'm going to give it one more minute and then we will dive right in. I love it. We have Connecticut, we have Georgia. Fantastic. I also would love to know, where are you all in your motherhood journey, right? Let's leave that in the chat and then I'll go and introduce tonight's event and I can get to know all of you while we do this. Don't be a stranger. We want to hear from you. I myself am a mom of four, with my oldest being 5 years old and my youngest being 5 months old. So I have been at every stage. Oh, 6 months postpartum, 33 weeks tomorrow. Amazing. All right, keep it coming. We want to hear all about it. In the meantime, I want to welcome everyone to the motherhood community. We are so thrilled to have you join us at this special and free event sponsored by our sponsor, Viacord. Tonight, we'll focus on a variety of topics. We are going to cover all stages of pregnancy, from early planning to preparing to give birth to postpartum and beyond in the journey of motherhood. Before we get started, I want to share a little bit about myself so that you know who I am. I am Chris Gordon. I am the founder of Baby Mama. I'm a certified lactation counselor. I'm also a PR strategist. I'm a mother of four and a children's book author, with a children's book coming out right in time for Mother's Day about the adventures of Mommy Marvelous. And I'm really dedicated to providing emotional and practical support. I want to make sure that women feel nurtured and understood throughout every phase of pregnancy. For me, motherhood can be confusing and a little bit scary, especially when you don't know what's coming. And so when I created Baby Mama, not only did I want to get certified in something that I had no idea how to do in the beginning, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so new to me. But I also wanted to create a support for women where they could just be honest and real about what it is that we're going through, tell the hard truths, asks like, why are our nipples chafing, all of the things. And so I wanted to just break down those barriers and be able to get super real. And that's who I am as a person. And drop it in the chat if you know what I mean, or if you've been so scared to kind of like ask the scary question. Well, tonight is the night. Like, if you have anything on your mind, and you're going to learn so much from these amazing women, but we just want this to be a really safe space for all new expecting moms, seasoned moms, right? I mean, even I have four, and still, believe it or not, I'm like, what the hell? I don't know what to do today, right? So the reality is, we're all a work in progress and we need to have each other's back and we need to support each other through it. So I'm really excited because there is so many journeys throughout motherhood. And I see in the chat, we have so many different phases that are here tonight. So, as a part of our commitment to supporting new and expecting parents, Motherhood Maternity emphasizes the importance of being prepared for all phases of motherhood. We know that preparing for the arrival of your baby can feel really overwhelming. I've been there. I've literally been there. Even with my fourth, I was so nervous still. But we're here to make that journey a little bit easier. We also know that every mom and every family is so different. Whether you're having your first or your fourth, this webinar is going to have something for every mother. During this session, we're going to be sharing some valuable guidance, tips, resources to support you every step of the way, including topics like cord blood banking, lactation, prenatal consultations, maternity fashion, nursing essentials, returning to work post-baby, and so much more. And drop in the chat if you are excited about any of those topics in particular. We want to know, what did you show up for? Why are you excited for tonight? Plus, what I'm really, really excited about, because we all love free and exciting things, is that we have a curated gift box and we're giving away 15 of those, valued at over $200. And this is going to be filled with must-have items from incredible brands like Wonder Belly, Parasol, Ella and Mila, Motherhood, of course, Lactation Network, and more. So during the event, we'll be asking a few questions along the way. Just keep it up. You guys are already so active, right? We're so excited to have you here, but let's share our thoughts with everybody. It's all about learning together and supporting each other. We want to share our experiences about our individual motherhood journeys. I think it just makes us feel less alone. And join us as we explore what to expect during each trimester, learn how to prepare for your baby's birth and beyond. If you have any questions about birth, like I said, I've gone through it 4 times. My very last one was born at home. My very first one was born at a hospital with the epidural. So I've literally run the gamut. I've experienced everything, so don't be shy. And before we get started and jump into today's amazing co-hosts, I want to talk a little bit about our sponsor, Viacord. Viacord has been a leader in cord blood banking for over 30 years, and it's the most trusted choice of hundreds and thousands of families. For those who may not know, after your baby's born, there's residual blood in the umbilical cord that contains valuable stem cells. You have the chance to collect the blood, have it sent to a cord blood bank like Viacord, where they'll extract the stem cells, freeze them, and then securely store them for your family's potential future medical use, which is just amazing because cord blood stem cells can be used in stem cell transplants for nearly 80 conditions and in clinical trials exploring new potential uses outside of stem cell transplants. The process of collecting cord blood is safe, painless. It can be done even with delayed cord clamping. I know that's a big question that comes up because so many moms want to have that delayed cord clamping, but it won't interfere with your birth plan or bonding with your baby at all. We can't control everything that happens in life, but we can plan as much as possible. Cord blood banking is a simple planning choice that could make a big difference for your family. So you can download free information and a kit on Viacord's website at www.viacord.com to learn more. We will drop that website in the chat as well. Check it out. Okay. So now that I see everyone is getting comfortable, okay, having a baby in September, we're so excited. Everyone's journey is so different. You're so right. But I'm excited because we're going to jump into our first guest speaker. Our first guest is an expert from the Lactation Network who will share some great education on lactation, like how to plan before baby arrives with a prenatal consultation, and how to navigate returning to work post-baby. That's a big one. I had to return to work, so Leah, who I'm about to introduce, she can tell you all about it. Getting ready, what do I do? How do I pump? What does it look like post-maternity leave? So I'm going to introduce you to Leah Trebis. She's an international board-certified lactation consultant, registered nurse, and senior director of clinical and strategic partnerships for the Lactation Network. She has worked with moms and babies for 22 years, working as a mother-baby nurse, nursery nurse, parent educator, and lactation consultant. I mean, come on, ladies. This is the woman that you want to have in your corner. She's practiced lactation as a consultant in a hospital setting, in a pediatrician's office, as well as in her own private practice. She's a mother of 3 and lives in Virginia. So throughout the night, Leah's going to discuss all things lactation, including the importance of setting yourself up for success during the prenatal stage. Leah will also educate on lactation experts and what to do after giving birth as you settle into a new chapter of motherhood. Now, I want you all to use the chat like you're using it now. Make sure that you post any questions you have. We will answer them live and some on the chat as best we can. So we'll keep track of everything. And if there's any questions that are super specific to you in a certain case or something that you're going through, Leah will make sure to drop in any of her information so that you can schedule that consultation. That's exactly what it's there for. So I am going to pass over the virtual mic to Leah, and here we go.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I'm really excited to be here. This is what I'm very passionate about. And I think, lactation has been something that is sort of up and coming. It's been around forever, but I think so many families have had a hard time accessing it in the past. So at the Lactation Network, our goal is to make it accessible to everyone. And I'll talk briefly about insurance coverage, but we do provide care across all 50 states. So wherever you are, we are too. We have providers in all states that can see you telehealth, in person in an office setting, or come in home. And that's something we think is really important. We think it as a mom, you should be able to decide where you want to be seen. And we think that's really important. So I want to talk a little bit about the prenatal visit. And the reason why I think it's important to educate families about this is because it's not something that's often utilized. I actually get people come to my private practice, they'll get approved through their insurance, and then they'll kind of say like, why would I see you before the baby? Like, it's just, there's a lot of confusion over the benefit of a breastfeeding visit. And so just to kind of paint a picture for you, in that prenatal period, what this does that's different than a class, and there is value in class. Like if you're a person that just thrives on information, take a class at your local hospital from, the local Leche League, whoever. But a one-on-one consultation does a couple of things that I think is really special. So one is talks about your unique situation. So I don't have one parent that has the same exact goal as other parents, has the same exact life situation, work situation. And so every prenatal visit, we work a little bit at what is your situation? Where are you delivering? Are you delivering at the hospital or at home? Because that makes a huge difference in terms of the lactation support you'll get. How involved is your partner? What is your support system like? I think partners are quite often left out of maternal conversations. I think we tend to focus so much on mom, and then when baby comes, we focus so much on baby. We kind of forget this key role that our partners and support people play in our success, right? It's a village that we want around us. And so what I love about a prenatal one-on-one consult is I will sit down with mom and her partner. We'll talk about, what did you see? What do you know about breastfeeding? What are your misconceptions? What are your feelings about lactation? What did you see? Did you see it in your family growing up or not? We've sort of moved out of our villages because we can travel so easily now. So many of us move for jobs and we're not around our family. So we don't have that same support. And so what's great about that prenatal is we'll talk about everything from what you're worried about to where you're delivering to what your goals are, all the way to what pump maybe you should purchase if you haven't have already purchased one. And I have very specific recommendations based on what type of job you have and what your schedule is going to be when you go back to work. We talk a little bit about like those early days. And then the most important piece of this is that you establish care with a provider, that then when baby is here and you have your aha moment, baby's in your arms and trying to latch, you now have contact with someone who is quite literally then going to support you. So I think it's really, really special to make sure that you have someone prior to having baby to be empowered with information, have a plan, and then be able to kind of walk through that. And then just speaking about a plan, I think it's really important to have more than one plan. So I kind of say you want a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, and etc. And the reason why this is oftentimes in maternal health care, we can feel very out of control. There's a lot of decisions being made about us and our labor and what kind of labor we're going to have and what interventions we're going to have. And by having additional plans, both for your birth and for lactation, you empower yourself to feel somewhat in control, even if things don't turn out perfectly the way you thought they were going to. And so I think just thinking through, what is my alternative scenario? What is my plan B if the baby has to go to the nursery for an hour before I get to see baby? Or, if I'm separated from baby for a little bit longer, what does that look like? And I think being able to have those plans in place are just, it takes a lot of the stress and worry out of that piece of it. So that's kind of the importance of a prenatal. I certainly encourage you to think about that. The third trimester, it's a perfect opportunity. So anytime after your third trimester is a great idea. You can set up a birth plan. I saw somebody mention something about a birth plan. You can do a birth plan and a lactation plan separately. It kind of helps the hospital staff. As somebody that's worked in the hospital, it helps me to understand people's goals right off the bat. And so I think that's a super important component of this as well. Are there any questions we want to tackle about prenatal prior to moving on just a little bit about how to pick a lactation consultant? Do you see any?
So yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of the questions that people have are postpartum,
Yeah,
but I think that it is important to your point that we really consider that support piece, right? And I think the reason why so many people naturally have questions for after is because they're not thinking about what they need to do
yeah,
before. And that is such an integral part. I know, I mean, I did a ton of prenatal consultations until I got busy with my agency, and now I have a prenatal course. But the importance of being able to talk live to somebody and really map that out, I mean, you can't miss an opportunity like that. So I think that having a birth plan, can you get a little bit into a birth plan? There was one question about birth plan, but I think having a birth plan is key.
yeah. So I think again, with a birth plan, understanding that if you're having a hospital delivery, understanding what that hospital allows. Do they allow you to get up and walk around? So you don't want to put things on the birth plan that you're going to walk in the door and have that person say, yeah, we don't do that here, you know? And so I think really having an understanding of what, take a hospital tour. Typically at those tours, they will talk to you a little bit about policy. And then your individual obstetrician will also have policies. So they'll have certain things in place where they'll say, oh, yes, like my goal is to allow you to get up and move around as much as possible. We allow this many support people in the birthing room, right? And all of these things are really important to, again, wrapping your brain around what that day and that moment is going to be like. And hospitals do want to see that. So I think when you go in to register, you can give them your birth plan at that time. And it is nice to have it in sections. So like having a like early labor section and then a like in the midst of labor and then immediate postpartum, it breaks it down for them. I really like bullets. When I worked in the hospital, bullet points were super helpful. You're breaking it down in a way that's very clear. This is clinical staff. They're very focused on a lot of things. So making it as clear cut as possible is great. If you don't want your baby to have a pacifier, you have a section about infant feeding and you say, I'm exclusively breastfeeding. This is what my desire is in the first hour. This is what I want to do going forward. And then, you can ask the questions that you want to know. I think sometimes it's intimidating for us to go straight face to face with our healthcare provider in the moments of either childbirth or right after. So I think articulating your questions on paper is really helpful. However, my one tip that I give people for labor, and I think this is a great method, is when you're being asked to change something about your plan, whether it's like, hey, we need to give you this medicine or we need to do this intervention. If you're feeling uncomfortable in that moment, it's okay to take a moment and say to your provider, I understand that this is routine for you. This is not routine for me. I would like a moment, if my baby is safe and I'm safe, to talk to you about this next step and why it's important for my birth, why it's important for my baby. And I think that really helps just take this moment to pause when things can really start to escalate and feel out of control. And so I just encourage people to feel, when you think about healthcare providers, including myself, is I am in a service industry. I'm here to serve my patients. And so while doctors are very educated, they are here to serve you and your baby. So I think really thinking about that is very important. But again, having some alternative plans. So if you want to have a vaginal delivery, but you end up with a C-section, really good idea to have your C-section birth plan B or C, right? Like, so I think really talk through that. Also, this is where I love to involve the partner, right? So asking your partner, like, what are you scared of? When we talk about lactation, I say to partners, like, what are you most worried about? Because it's going to flush out at 3 a.m. when the baby's not latching and you're crying and the baby's crying. So it's like, let's talk about it prenatally so that we can address it and we can deal with those things ahead of time. Super important. I think it's like we can turn on our partners if we don't kind of have this plan in place so that we're on the same page.
We
Yeah.
can, I
Yeah.
know that firsthand. I was like with my first compared to how I was with my fourth, had I just known to just talk about it beforehand. And so all the moms that are, this is their first and they have their partner and their partner wants to know how to help, give them the path, right? And I think, Leah, when you talked about advocating for yourself, if you don't feel like in the moment you'll be able to, it's a good script for your partner to get to know. Right.
Yeah.
So something that they could be really confident in. So you can just give them a look and then they can be the ones to talk to the
I
staff, your
love that,
doctor,
Chris.
support team.
Absolutely. I think that's great. Something I think empower your partner, right? To advocate for you as well. I think that makes so much sense. So and then just kind of moving on a little bit about picking a lactation consultant. So I think the lactation profession, and Chris can probably speak to this a little as well. It's had ups and downs in terms of just the way it's perceived, right? Like from a public perspective. But what I really like to share is that I am here for any person that is going to lactate, that wants to lactate, that wants to stop lactating. So even a prenatal can be appropriate for a mom that plans to formula feed. And the reason why that is because your milk often will come in if you want it to or not. There are things we can do to prepare you for that prenatally so that you don't then have any issues with like clogged ducts or mastitis in that early postpartum period when you're just want to formula feed. So I think gone are the days of these like hardcore people that aren't going to support whatever your goals are. And so what I start with my patients in the early appointments are I don't have an agenda that isn't your goals. Your goals are my goals now. And so whatever that is, whether that's exclusively breastfeeding, whether that's formula feeding, whether that's combo feeding, whether that's exclusively pumping, um, you drive the ship. You get to decide. And so I think, leaning into the person, and it's fine to say, hey, can we hop on a phone call? No one ever asks me that. I would be happy to hop on a phone call with someone if they were trying to pick an LC and not sure who to go to, because this is the type of doctor you want to feel like you have like a little bit of a vibe with, right? Like, or the type of provider you want to vibe with. So I think like thinking through that piece of it is really important too, right? Like you want to make sure that you're getting along. And then when we talk about lactation providers, there's different types. So a lot of midwives are very knowledgeable about breastfeeding, but your OB and your pediatrician will admittedly tell you it is not part of their training. So it's sort of like expecting your pediatrician to give your child speech therapies. That's not their thing. So it's kind of the same thing to expect your pediatrician to give you lactation care. It's just not necessarily their thing. A lactation appointment involves a full history and assessment of a parent, full history and assessment of a baby, and then an assessment of the feeding or the pumping session or whatever it may be. And so when you really think through that, an OB is really there for mom and fetus. Once the baby's out, it's now someone else's responsibility. And the pediatrician is your baby's doctor. So unless your pediatrician is certified in lactation and is willing to do a longer appointment length, it's really important to utilize the right lactation provider. So finding experts in your area that have practiced lactation, like Chris or myself, that do understand the nuances of breastfeeding, that have lactation specific education, is a really important part of picking this provider. In addition to, do I get along with this person? Do they get me, right? Like, which is equally as important. But that's going to really guide you through this without making you feel any sort of way, right? Like, I think as moms, we put enough pressure and guilt on ourselves. You don't need a provider doing that too. So making sure you really feel secure in that. Anything else that we want to add from the chat before we move on, or
I
anything you
mean,
want to
I
talk
think
about,
that
Chris?
this is so great. And you're actually answering a lot of the questions that a lot of these wonderful women have as you go through, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think that at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we have our support system in our corner that we really feel a connection with. I know for me, that's like such a pillar of my business and also of my own like personal beliefs. It's like you need to have someone that you can call and you can really trust and feel safe with. And it's okay if you want to go and have that lactation support, because oftentimes you think, oh, maybe I'm challenging my pediatrician. It's not about that at all. And a good pediatrician will respect that you have that boundary. And so if you're feeling like you're getting pressured and not look into your own support system from your pediatrician, then maybe they're not right for you. And you need to ask yourself those questions. And as first-time moms, especially, we might not have the confidence or even just the know-how to do that. But now you have motherhood in your corner. So we have your back, right?
Yeah, no, I think I really like that you brought that up. I think that's equally as important, right? Thinking about how you pick your pediatrician. A lot of pediatricians will do a prenatal appointment with you. You can go in. I like to look at how the waiting room is set up. I'm like, how close are the sick kids to my baby? Like that's one thing I look at. I love a pediatrician's office that has like a little box for a newborn. I'm like, perfect, put us in the glass box. Like that's great. But I think really, asking those doctors, like, what is your support of breastfeeding? Do you have on staff lactation? Do you support lactation? I think those are important questions if it's important to you. And one thing I really like to point out is sort of our care model, again, the way we practice care and the postpartum period in America, which is we just do so much for that mom. When we get to the end of your pregnancy, we're seeing you weekly for your OB checks, right? And then you deliver the baby, and then your OB says, I will see you in 6 weeks. The biggest thing of your life just happened, and I will see you in 6 weeks. And for a lot of parents, it's very jarring to lose that like weekly contact with a healthcare provider who's walking them through, gosh, my feet are swollen and I have to pee all the time and I have heartburn. And then one day you have the baby and all of a sudden that person's not there. Their time with you has sort of ceased. And I think this is like my little phrase that I always say when I'm giving talks is lactation is the only time in your life where you can have a swollen body part that's leaking fluid and not have standard medical care. So the fact that we kind of look at lactation like it's an ancillary service to like mainstream healthcare is silly, right? Like your body is going through this like massive hormonal shift and change. And to not have support during that 6 week postpartum time is kind of bonkers, right? Like, so also remembering that like sometimes our society sort of rewards us as parents for being like, oh, like this is so hard. And I can't do it and I'm tired. And like, you should have help. Like, this is the time to have help. This is the time to surround yourself with a care team of support, right? Whether that's a lactation consultant, a mental health care professional, pelvic floor therapist, somebody like Chris, right? Like, thinking through all of the things that you're allowed to need that doesn't make you weak, that doesn't make you less, but that just makes you a human that needs that connectedness and advice and support during one of the biggest transitions of your life, whether that's first baby or third baby.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, a lot of these questions also happen to be about how to maintain supply, what kind of pump to use. And I dropped some things in the chat for everyone.
Oh, good.
There's so many different resources, but you have to remember that everything is so unique to you. That's why having a consultation with an LC or a CLC or IBCLC is so important. And, back to work is hard to navigate. Can we touch on that for just a few minutes?
Yeah,
Answer
I
some of
think
the
that's great. Yeah, I think back to work is secondarily to having the baby. Emotionally, I think back to work is one of the biggest emotional shifts for a new parent, but also a second time, third time parent. And for a lot of people, if they really like their career and their job, there's this really interesting thing that happens where you get excited to like return to the workforce and like pick back up. Like if you're working on something that you're passionate about at work and you step out to have your baby and you're coming back, I think really thinking about like going into that space, feeling prepared, feeling like you know what your pumping plan is, you know what's going on with like what your work accommodations are. So just to speak on that piece of it, there are national laws in place that support your right to pump at work. And then there are additional state protections. So there's a bit of both. I recommend a proactive approach. And when I do a prenatal with a mom, I help set up this conversation if she needs help with it. So what I like to do is have a talk with your direct manager prior to you going out on leave to say, my plan is to breastfeed. This is what I'm doing. And kind of just saying, like, I'm going to breastfeed. This is my plan. I'm going to need to pump. I'm going to have even some like newborn appointments that I'll need to go to for vaccines and such. And, like you'll have all of these things. And discussing it ahead of time, what I find it does is it sort of disarms the situation, because I think a lot of times we decide that our managers are going to be mad. We decide that our managers aren't going to give us the time to pump. We sort of preconceive this. Now, some of you are probably like, no, 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 my manager is going to be bad. But I think it's important to give people the opportunity to support you. And I think the best way to do that is to ask ahead of time. So ahead of time, you go, you say, this is my plan. This is what I'm going to do. Depending on where you work, you will need to pump kind of on the schedule that your baby's eating. However, I don't like regimentedly holding parents to that, because I think what happens is you get real stressed if it's been like 3 hours and 15 minutes and you were supposed to pump at 3 hours. And that can really affect the way your milk releases during your pumping session and your overall supply over time. And so I think it's really important to create a pumping plan with your lactation consultant that supports some flexibility there. And so I often, depending on your industry, what kind of work you do, how much you're on, if you're a nurse, if you're a teacher, if you have a desk job or any of those things, you really can think about an individualized plan for how you're going to pump. So if you're going to be on your feet, a wearable pump's almost like a must have, right? Like either a wearable that's individual motors in each side, or wearable cups with like a small pump, like the Baby Buddha or the S9 through Spectra. There's like a bunch of them that are portable, can fit in a large pocket, whether it's like a cardigan or a scrub top. So there's a lot of options there. But I think there's like a lot of components to that back to work. And I think the biggest thing is that planning piece, because if you can talk to someone and set up a plan, you feel empowered when you go back to work instead of feeling stressed. You're going to have some bittersweet moment, right? Like that's unavoidable, where you're going to feel like, oh man, like I'm going to miss my baby, but I'm excited to go back to work. There's going to be a little bit of that. What we want to take out of that for you is the stress, the logistical stress, right? Of like, where do I store my milk? Does my work want me to put it in a fridge? These are all questions that, to be honest, if they haven't dealt with a lot of people who have had babies and needed to pump, they don't know the answer. So bringing it up prenatally, super helpful, right? You're preparing them. Where would you like me? Do you want me to have like a cooler bin that I like put my closed, my milk in, or like what's your desire? So I think just making sure that you communicate is number one when you go back to work. And then just having, again, people around you that can counsel you on the best method, the best schedule, and all of those pieces can be really powerful as well.
I love this. Well, this is so helpful, and the chat is just absolutely popping off. I want everyone to remember that you can schedule time with Leah for one-on-one. The Lactation Network is such a fantastic resource. You've actually answered so many of the questions, and for anything that you haven't, we'll make sure to follow up on emails, follow along on Instagram. Leah, please feel free to drop your handle in the chat and reach out for these questions and anything further, and we'll see if we can get to it at the end if there's anything that we didn't touch on. But keep the questions coming. We want to see what you're most interested about, because remember, we're going to do a lot of these events. We want to make sure that we're answering this community's questions more and more, and however we can be a support, we want to be that for you at Motherhood. So I'm going to get to our next amazing host. So we're going to talk about fashion. Now, this is like one of my favorite topics. Everything mommy is like my favorite thing ever, of course. So when you combine motherhood and fashion, it's like, here I am. I am actually wearing one of my motherhood maternity shirts. This is like my favorite shirt. And I am 5 months postpartum and I still wear it. I need everybody to know that you can wear your motherhood maternity styles whenever you want. And what I love is, to Leah's point, I'm back to work. And so I need something that I can pump and that's accessible. And so it's easy to throw these on, still feel like you look chic and put together, but you're also able to put your pump inside your shirt and have a little bit more accessibility. Okay, so I'm going to throw it over to Sophia Calcano. So Sophia is from Sophia C Style on Instagram. She's a wardrobe stylist in New York City, specializing in styling, image consulting, and personal shopping for a sophisticated international clientele. I'm like, Sophia, I'm going to call you after this. She's committed to helping her clients develop a refined aesthetic that makes them look and feel their best. Her belief is everyone deserves to feel confident and excited about fashion. And she's here tonight to share her experiences as an expert fashion stylist who's worked with expecting mothers around the country. Welcome, Sophia.
Hi, thank you, Chris, and thank you, Leah. That was really informative. I'm actually 7 months myself, so it's good to hear all that information and take it in. I'll be referencing the chat after. How are you? Yeah, so I'm a stylist in New York City. I work primarily with females, and I've had many clients that have gotten pregnant, given birth, styled during all of that, and of course, after working moms, non-working moms, moms that are very social, kind of run the gamut of all of that and what it entails. And I think that there's a lot of tips when it comes to maternity style. One of them kind of translates into what I do with my clients every day. That one of the first things I do with clients is I kind of edit their closets to see what works for them and what doesn't. So the way I translate that into maternity style is you really want to, especially when your body's changing and you're growing, the best thing you can do for yourself is kind of edit your closet. So what I do is, and even for myself, is the beginning of my closet has like what I am using day to day. And I think when it comes to those pieces, it's comfort. I'm looking for pieces that are made from like stretchy fabrics. Cotton and jersey are very friendly. I also really recommend elastic waistbands and finding leggings like maternity styles or maternity denim that you can use in a variety of outfits. One of the best things you can do is seek out great maternity brands like Motherhood. Just someone that caters to your style and you know, my main component is creating sort of a uniform for day to day. That way, when you have those base like layers together, you can kind of build on top of that. People are saying they love the leggings. I love them too. I'm sort of living in my leggings. A lot of my clients end up wearing either leggings or unitard like from day to night. And we'll talk about those looks soon, but it's so easy if you have like a whole black comfortable uniform underneath to just build on top of that. And the best part about that is you're not investing a ton in maternity wear. A lot of women come to me and they're like, I don't want to spend hundreds of dollars on a period in my life. Granted, and I remind them, not only are you going to use these pieces during the 9 months that you're pregnant, but we use a lot of them postpartum and sometimes even later on. So
Oh yeah, I wear my motherhood stuff. And that's what's great. It's like the other thing I want to point out about motherhood is that I posted about one of their amazing dresses the other day, and a ton of my friends who aren't pregnant or postpartum bought it. First
yeah.
off, the price is right. It's wonderful for the quality, for everything. It's like it's an investment piece that you know that you'll have. That's not this crazy price point that's going to break the bank. But it's true. It's like you can have some of these staples and you don't have to worry about like, oh, I'm only investing in one thing that then I can't wear in 9 months from now. It's like that's
Yeah.
not with motherhood, but
Exactly, exactly. Get those staples for underneath. And I love the shirt you're wearing right now. I think that's awesome. I have like 10 of those lined up in my wardrobe ready to go. And I've just been layering them on top of either a jumpsuit or a legging and a shirt. I think there's like certain staples that come with maternity wear. Definitely a legging, a great black legging, definitely a unitard. Uh, those things can kind of go from day to night, depending like what you layer on top of it. And the best part about that is what you're layering with is existing closet pieces. So you're not going out there and buying, expensive maternity blazers or something like that. Like you can use your own blazers. And if you gain a little weight, it's okay. Put it on your shoulders, accessorize, like play around with your own former pieces so you're not spending a ton. I think a great black pant, a white pant, a denim is another staple that I can't live without. I'm wearing my motherhood ones right now. I can't show you, but they're very comfortable. And maybe like a great white tank, a black tank, a white tee, a black tee. And one of my tips actually, Chris, is what you're doing what you're wearing right now. I love wearing button downs over kind of my uniform underneath. I wear them open, you can tie them if you want to. Um, I've styled a lot of women in maternity, and I think it depends like what climate you're in, and we're kind of like shifting the mold of what we layer on top. But definitely a button down like that is great to layer on top. And I want to talk about Cute cardigan. So another idea, I know that we're peeking into like summer months right now, but once it gets into like fall, winter, um, I think all of these uniforms kind of still are relevant and they kind of can be under sweaters, cardigans, jackets. I want to read some of your questions if anyone has something for me.
There's
Dressing
a
the bump is so
few.
fun. It is kind of fun. I've really enjoyed it since I popped, to be honest. I think then it all kind of comes together, right? You're not feeling funky in your first trimester. You can tell people that you're pregnant, you're like open about it. Yes, for button downs. Button downs come in handy. Oh, another tip I wanted to give is if you don't have button downs that are larger, because I think one of the best things you can do is get like a bigger style, especially something that covers from behind. A lot of my more modest clients like something like that. Steal your husband's. I take his clothes all the time. Or steal a guy friend's button downs if you can. Just worry more about the under part of what you're wearing and having that kind of set as a formula, and then you can build on top of that.
Yeah, I love the layering. I think that that's so great. And also, there were some questions about different climates and how to dress in different climates. I know that obviously, like we're in New York, it's finally starting to get a little bit sunny, but it's like if you're in a really hot state or somewhere where it's been sunny and warm for a while, sometimes dressing the bump in different climates can be challenging. I've been pregnant through every season, especially for my
Right.
last three. It was like the entire year. So it's like, well, what do I invest in and when? My bump's going to be this big and then this big and this big. And then all of a sudden, like jackets are going to be harder. But you're talking about layering. I mean, how can we approach some of the styling tips that you have in different seasons or at different temperatures?
Yeah, for sure. One of the first things I do with my clients is let's look at exactly when you're delivering, what events we have leading up to that, what season we're in, etc. I think building upon the uniform that's underneath is so important. Like the unitard, I'll show you when we get to those looks. That's something that you can layer with a sweater on top, a jacket on top, boots under, add some socks, add some scarves, add some accessories, add some hats. You still kind of want to have those base layers. It's almost like when you think about when you're going skiing and you always have those heat tech layers underneath. So it's kind of that mentality. But maybe investing in one or two oversized sweaters isn't the worst thing. And sometimes we find ourselves with clients using them after. We'll put them with boots and then get a belt and cinch our waist now that we got our waist back. And they kind of translate post maternity as well.
And I'm going to share your mood board now a little bit so that we can have you kind of talk us through it.
Yes. So that's the famous unitard. I have one next to me right now. So I like to use these as a base layer, as I've said probably 10 times already, but I've styled the first one for day. We have a little sneaker and a large hobo bag with some sunnies. You can, in the early stage of pregnancy, maybe close the shirt if you want to. And as you get bigger, I like to just leave it open and it just kind of makes me feel a little bit more put together. You can also throw a little cardigan on top of that look. And I think it's just like a really easy formula for daytime. You can layer a t-shirt on top of the unitard too if it's chillier. There's so many directions you can take that look, but I'm sure a lot of people have a button down in their closet. So we're just kind of trying to use pieces that you already own. Now, taking this look from day to night, I would add a blazer, some jewelry, a nice little high heel, not too high because we want to be comfortable, and like a black bag. I think it's just like easy and simple. And, I have a lot of clients that ended up wearing their unitards a lot towards the end of their pregnancies. And yeah, we just kind of built upon them. For the next look, we have the jeans. I think those are the jeans I'm wearing right now. So for the first look, we have more of a spring summer vibe. We have a little sandal, a black bag, the sunnies again, a necklace, and a tank top, which is maternity, and the cardigan, which is not maternity. Um, you can kind of build upon this or wear, a sneaker or a boot if it's colder out. What about if you need to pee though for the unitard? You're not wrong. It's a little bit more work, but I also gravitate towards building the same look with a legging and a black tank top. Um, anyway, taking this look from day to night, I would add a heel, a nice tweed jacket, which is pre-maternity. Same thing. Here's another one of those staples is a black tank, which is maternity. I've bought about like 4 or 5 of these and I have them on rotation, and then some cute accessories to finish the look. Um, my husband threw away my clothes from previous pregnancy. I have a lot of clients where we'll hold something up from pregnancy and be like, are you sure you're not having another baby? And maybe we'll tuck it away in storage. We don't have to look at it. It doesn't have to be hanging with all of your jeans, but you'd be surprised how much of this stuff you might use after, especially in those first few months, even like 6 to 9 months after. So don't worry about investing too much. I think you'll get good use out of these pieces.
And you can always pass it down to friends, you know? It's like that's the other part of it that I found. I mean, I mean, although I hold on to all my stuff, I'm like, I'll wear this with this. And you'll see on my like Instagram, I'll like style maternity clothes a different way now that I'm postpartum, but it comes in such handy because it is so many staples and they feel really good. They're like much more comfortable than some of the like really restricting clothes. So it's nice to have that as the base layer. But
Yeah.
it comes in handy more than you think, and you can like update the looks here and there for different stages in your life. Because I said, I'm like, I'm on my 4th baby, I'm done. I'm not having any more kids after this. And so I'm looking at like my maternity clothes, and I'm like, well, and I'm like, I'm gonna keep them and just kind of like dress them up and like pizzazz them into something different for the now, right?
Yeah. I mean, lucky for us, that's kind of the style now, like, right? Wider jeans, bigger blazers, kind of larger silhouettes. So we're lucky we live in a time where that's kind of the style. Is there any other questions that I should answer?
So, I mean, there was one specifically about hiding early bumps at work for someone who hasn't announced yet. Is there anything you can like suggest for that?
Mm-hmm. So looser tops for sure, but I always try and keep the look a little bit more refined if you want to wear a jacket on top of that. And I think darker colors are always our friend. I mean, I wore a lot of darker colors in the beginning. It's fall, winter. The second I popped on a light blue pastel dress, everyone was like, oh my gosh, you're pregnant. Congratulations. So something to think about is like maybe utilizing darker colors, um, borrowing bigger t-shirts for the beginning and kind of layering that into your look, or even a button down like you're wearing now. I feel like that's very friendly for the first trimester.
Yeah, and like I love it because a button down, you can either wear it like out and not tucked in. And then today I have mine like tucked into my jeans because I'm postpartum. So it's like you can really kind of get away with, especially there's questions about fluctuating weight. It's like this is great because you can actually put like a T underneath it once you get bigger and you need to open it up and your belly pops a little bit more. And
Yeah,
it's and you can kind of, button down or tuck in. So I think
yeah. You made a great point about breastfeeding too. It's a lot about accessibility. So having those buttons down the front, it's just like a baby's onesie, right? You want to be able to open up easily, less constriction than wearing a t-shirt or something.
I love that like a baby's onesie. It's so true. It's like everything I plan, I'm back at work and I go on a lot of like conferences and I speak and stuff. And I'm always like, what do I wear? I need to be able to. I was just at an event this weekend and I brought my baby and I was like, I need to wear something where I can also like nurse him right after I speak on stage. Like I can't, there's no time for me to like go back, change everything. It's like I'm going from thing to thing. And so to be able to have clothes that are accessible and easy for you to wear when you're breastfeeding, when you're pumping, and all of the above is just important too. And I feel like motherhood
Yeah.
really thinks of everything for every stage.
Yeah, find those staples, build those kind of little uniforms, those formulas that you're gonna layer on top. And trust me when I say this, push the rest of your closet further back if you can. Put those pieces in the front, just so when you walk into your wardrobe, you have it right there in front of you, like what works for you right now. And give yourself grace. I mean, this is just like a certain period of your life. Mothers get frustrated easily. It's not a fashion show. We want to be comfortable and polished, and you'll get there. It's just about kind of taking in those few tips and then going from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I'm so happy. I feel like we have a lot more questions, but I know in the interest of time, we'll make sure that we are getting back to you via email as well. We'll send out some more information on email blast, but also follow along our guests on Instagram. They're talking about these tips and tricks all day, every day. DM them, connect with them. I know I hired a stylist when I was pregnant because I was like, I need to, like, Sophia's there for this very reason. It's like, if we have things that we need to be showing up for and we want to feel our best, we want to have the experts in our corner. And I'm a really big believer in that because we want to feel our best during pregnancy and beyond. It's going to help us mentally prepare for motherhood. It's going to help support us if we're maybe on our second or third baby. Time, you have a lot less time then, so you need people in your corner even more. But thank you so much, Sophia, for the styling tips and outfit recommendations. And I'd also like to take some time for the community to share their own experiences. All right. How about everyone in here? I know we've had some questions, but what about experiences with maternity clothes? Can you share it with each other? Any tips that you've all been able to kind of use to navigate your pregnancies? All right, so now we're kind of wrapping up, and everyone has been so amazing in the chat. I just want to say thank you to this community for being so involved. I love seeing everyone go back and forth, and I give each other their tips and just answer each other's questions. That's exactly why we built this series. And so we want to just thank you for all the support. And as we conclude the event, we want to thank our sponsor again, Viacord. Please visit www.viacord.com to learn more and see if it's a fit for you and your family. It's important to learn about cord blood banking. This is a fantastic option to have in your arsenal as you're preparing for your journey into parenthood. And so thank you again. By being here, you've automatically been entered into a raffle to win a packed bag with over $200 worth of products from our favorite brands like Isotoner, Wonderbelly, like literally I couldn't live without it during my pregnancy. I had the worst acid reflux, and Wonderbelly was like by my side every step of the way. So it's an amazing brand. And then my son came out and had a ton of hair. So that was probably what that was all about. And then Parasol Co., Ella and Mila, and of course, Motherhood, the Lactation Network, and more. We'll be reaching out to the winners of the giveaway via email tomorrow. So keep an eye out on your inbox. And in the meantime, we are going to drop all of the social handles and websites into the chat. And so follow us, follow along, ask us questions, DM us. Motherhood especially is one of the most active social handles. Every time I post something that I'm wearing from Motherhood, they always tell me how great I'm looking. And that makes me really, really happy. It makes me feel good about myself. They're there for you. And so I highly suggest and recommend following everyone tonight. And you can learn more about our speakers and keep the conversations going on social media. So stay tuned for the next webinar. There's going to be more to come. If you enjoyed this, give us a little thumbs up or a heart. Tell us what you loved about it in the chat, or even share with us what you'd like to know next. And, DM us on Instagram. You can DM me anytime, please. I have my handles at babymama.com. I'll also drop in my other handle, just Chris Gordon PR, so that you know how to get to me in both ways, and tell us what you want to see. All right. Have a fantastic night, everyone. Thank you again to our amazing hosts and the guests that have joined. This has been so wonderful, and we are just so thrilled to be able to do this for our amazing community.